Hey guys, today's episode is my conversation with Tim Buwick. He has an incredible personal and professional story that I am sure will captivate all of you listening. You may know Tim from his time at Wilson Sporting Goods, or perhaps from his book Blasé to Ablaze, which came out last year. Today's conversation was more Vida than tennis. We talked about finding one's passion and purpose, living life to the fullest through positivity and having perspective in life. We shared our love for Roger Federer, talked about being a great communicator and not getting bitter, but instead getting better. Remember, you can follow Vida Tennis on social media, on Facebook as Vida Tennis, and on Instagram at Vida Tennis Podcast. Learn from one of the best out there, only here at Vida Tennis. Enjoy! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Vida Tennis, the podcast for those of us who eat, sleep, breathe tennis. I'm Jennifer Gelhaus, and today I am so pumped to talk with Tim Buwick. Tim is a professional speaker, MC, and pickleball and paddle coach. He has spoken to countless audiences around the world in his 35-year professional career in TV, radio, sales, marketing, and promotions. He has interviewed and emceed events featuring superstars like Roger Federer, Stephen Curry, John Newcombe, Billie Jean King, John MacEnroe, Pete Sampras, and many others. Tim spent 28 years at Wilson Sporting Goods as the Racquet Sports Territory Manager. He released his first book last year called Blasé to Ablaze, How to Turn Your Blas into Ahhs to Ignite Passion and Purpose. His book is packed with stories and humor where Tim shows you how to ignite your passion and purpose to keep your fire burning brightly, even during the darkest of times. He also has his own podcast by the same name, Blasé to Ablaze. He graduated from Eastern Illinois University and he's originally from Chicago. Woo! Tim, I know this is the short version of your bio, but thank you for being here. Welcome to Vida Tennis. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
It is an honor. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And now you mentioned kind of offline that you are teaching, you're teaching pickleball and platform, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Where are you? Where are you teaching?
I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm director of paddle sports at Old Providence Racquet Club, which is the largest club here in the Queen City of North Carolina. So yes, I'm actually doing the 3 Ps. I've been playing and teaching platform tennis, pickleball, and just recently getting into padel. 3 padel courts have just been put in literally 5 minutes from my house. I used to rollerblade in that parking lot where the courts went in. So it's easy for me to get there. So I'll probably be getting into padel a lot more as well. So I've been a racket sports guy my whole life. So this is a natural transition since all 3 sports are growing virally.
And when you were at Wilson, were you also teaching?
No, it was busy at Wilson.
So I can't imagine. I was like, what?
No, I didn't have much of a chance to teach it at that time because in my last role with Wilson as U.S. promotions director, I was in charge of the Wilson advisory staff and signing contracts, our major partners, and we're running our demo tour, our world demo tour. And so my plate was very full with Wilson, so I didn't do any teaching at that time.
Yeah. And how do you like teaching? How has that been going?
I love teaching. You know, it's so interesting because I had been out of the teaching industry for a while. I mean, that's where I started in teaching tennis, and that's where I started in my tennis career. And I love it. There's obviously a difference between playing and teaching. Mm-hmm. And they say some of the best teachers are not the best players. I was competent, I was 4-5, type player, and on my best days maybe bumped up a touch above that. But the teaching, what I love about teaching is that light bulb moment when you're teaching, you've been working with your student for a while to get that topspin forehand or the underspin backhand or whatever you're working on, and then the light bulb goes off and they get it and go, oh, I realize that slight little grip change that you made that made all the difference in the world. And that truly gives me joy. And so in the teaching, one of the many things that I do, I love being on court with people because of that, because you do get the immediate gratification, you do get the immediate compensation that you get it, but it's really the joy of people learning, and joy is the key word because it gives them joy, in turn gives me a lot of joy as well, because I maybe had a small part in that.
I'm sure you're a natural. I mean, you're coming from that kind of background in sales and being a speaker. You must be a great communicator. You obviously have the voice for it.
Thank you.
But I'm sure that there's a lot of skills that transferred really easily into teaching for you. Would you agree with that?
It did, and vice versa. I mean, as coaches, we are communicators. I mean, that's one of the key components of coaching is, someone can have all that knowledge in their head, but if you can't communicate it and translate it, it's not so much what I want to say, it's what do they understand? So a lot of times, and that translates into the speaking business, and a quote by Abraham Lincoln just popped into my head. And he said, when speaking to an audience, I give 5 minutes on consideration of what I want to say and 55 minutes in what they want to hear or what do they want to learn. And I think as we go through in coaching in each one of our lessons, yes, there's things that we want to translate to them, but what is the takeaway for them? What do they want to see at the end of this series of lessons or this one-off lesson or whatever it is? What do we want to accomplish today? And then modify whatever we're doing, whether it's speaking, whether it's coaching, whatever we do in whatever sphere in life that we contact with people, is what do we want the results? So we look, Stephen Covey also comes to mind and says, seek first to understand, then be understood. So it's all about the student, not about what I want to say.
100%. And how would you describe your time at Wilson? What was the favorite part of your time at Wilson and your job there?
Boy, that could take up the rest of the podcast. My time with the Big W was fantastic. I mean, they were just the best of times. I'm still very close with many of the people that I worked with there. And I mean, it's truly been a lifelong endeavor because my dad also worked for Wilson for 39 years. So I'm one of the very few people that could say I literally was born into Wilson Sporting Goods because I grew up in the Chicago area because my dad worked for Wilson. And it's all about the people. And the people that I worked with there and worked for and who worked for me were just the best. One of my favorite phrases when I talk about the tennis industry and the racket sports industry is we have the great honor and the great privilege of working in the toy department of life. And and so often I would say, and I'd look around and we'd be at a beautiful club or and it's a gorgeous day, or we'd be at the US Open or the Australian Open or wherever. And I go, you know what, guys, this is a work day. Look at this. This is a work day. We get to do this. And it truly is a gift for those of us that work in the profession, whatever our role, whether we're teaching or promotions, marketing, sales, or running a business or whatever it might be. It's a gift to be in this industry. So that's a difficult question because there have been so many highlights that I've had through my career, but I'll highlight one because it probably rises above all others is to be able to spend a day with Roger Federer in Spain. And I did a stage interview. We had what Ahhs Sports calls a global sales launch. And I did a stage interview with Roger. And I am so thrilled to say that he is exactly as advertised. The way he appears is the way he is. There was no pretense. There was no pretending that, he wasn't looking at his watch and going, okay, I got to put in my 3 hours and get the heck out of here. Every single person, regardless of their station in life, he treated with dignity and respect and time. And I could tell so many side stories from that experience. But Roger was fantastic. And so be able to spend time with him and then the same day with Grigor Dimitrov and Gael Monfils. I was chair umpire with our CEO and president of the company, and we had this fun doubles, and it was a great day in Sitges, Spain, about 30 miles outside of Barcelona. So that was one of the many things, and being able to be with Serena and Billie Jean King and Chrissy Evert, and it was pretty good gig. So it was a lot of fun.
That sounds, I don't know, pretty amazing.
It was.
I would love that. I actually had the opportunity to meet Roger. At a club where I was working in the summer. He was a guest of one of our members, like right before the U.S. Open, and he would come with his family, and I actually got to teach his kids. And that was
fantastic.
Yeah, that was a really interesting experience getting
They're cute, aren't they?
Your idols' children. Like I was like, this is my life right now. Yeah. And I got to meet him and I didn't get to talk to him much, but yeah, the interaction was definitely like you said. And to me at this club, it's a very special club. I got to meet a lot of high profile, famous people, and I usually keep my cool. But meeting Roger, I always say, is the only time in my life that I've been truly speechless. Like, it's like I forgot what language was. It's like he floated and he was God, and I just could not get words out. I was seriously speechless the very first time I met him. So, yeah, he's amazing. I can imagine you being around all the big names. That had to be such a fun gig.
It was, and Roger's at a different level. And, there's a reason why he's still the world's most beloved athlete.
Yeah.
Just a couple of sides, just to give a little window into the type of person he is. It's not all his massive achievements and all that, and, how he carries himself and all that, but it's how he treats people. I marveled at, because we all know of people who are the opposite of that. Who aren't even close to Roger's level, yet project themselves as being better than everyone else. And they're miserable to be around. And my first interaction with Roger is I was, writing, some of the introductions for the match that I was going to do later and preparing for the stage interview. And so I'm on my laptop working, and he says, excuse me. I just wanted to meet you very quickly. I'm Roger Federer. And I look up and I was almost going to say, excuse me, do you see I'm working here and you just interrupt me? How rude of you. It's like, and he was just so unassuming. And I'll tell you one other thing is at the end of the stage interview we flew in 50 of our top customers from around the world with all the Ahhs sports brands to this event. And we had what's called a step and repeat, where people would line up, take a picture with Roger, and then move off stage and then next. So we'd have an official portrait with them. But a lot of people brought their cell phones as well. So this German couple comes up, and they were so nervous. The guy told me later, he said, I could hardly breathe. I had to.
That's how I felt.
Roger Federer. Yeah. And he has that effect on people. And so I'm standing off to the side, and I'm watching this, and a lady holds up her cell phone can we take a quick selfie with my cell phone and then the official picture? He says, yeah, sure. So they take the picture, then they get ready for the official portrait. And Roger says, hold on. Said, I think you had your eyes closed on that picture. Let's do one more. And I thought about that, and I go, how many hundreds of thousands of pictures has he been in probably at this point? And he has the sensitivity to realize this is their moment to be with Roger Federer. She doesn't want a selfie with her eyes closed. And I just marveled at that. And before we were setting up for this step and repeat, he and I were talking off stage as they're getting it set up. And I said, well, Roger, where do you go from here? And he says, well, I'm flying to Geneva with my family. And he says, but I won't be there long. Said, because I'm immediately taking a flight. And he named the town. I can't remember the town. And he said, they're having a parade for me, and they're naming their main street after me. And he says, it's so cool. He said, I'm just so excited. It's just going to be the neatest thing. And it wasn't with a hint of arrogance, not a hint, hey, they're naming the street after me. Yeah. He was like a little kid being excited about that. And I just marveled at his humility despite his massive stature.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's so beloved, and everybody cried watching him play his final match.
How could you not?
Yeah.
How could you not?
You
wish he could play forever. Yeah.
Right. And so now that you're playing all the racket sports, which one would you say is the one that you enjoy the most or that you play the most? Is there one that you like more?
I do have a special love for paddle, platform tennis.
Okay.
Because I'm one of those nuts, being from the Chicago area, I actually like nasty cold weather. I love winter. And of course, that's a winter sport outside. And so there's the whole atmosphere of that, of we don't get a chance to play in the snow almost never here in Charlotte. But in that colder weather, to bundle up and be outside, I love to ski as well. So I love exercising in adverse weather. It's stimulating for me. Mm-hmm. But I think I can honestly say that each one has its own special quality. I love pickleball. I'm learning to love padel, badminton, squash, tennis. Each one has its unique aspects where you have to adjust strategically. Yeah. And I love the cat and mouse game. I love teaching the strategy of the game, of how do you get inside the mind of your opponent? How do you deal with your own mental approach to the game? And so I can't say one rises head and shoulders above the other, because it's kind of nice to bounce back and forth. The 3 Ps right now are in my sphere: pickleball, paddle, and padel. And there's a lot of, in terms of philosophically, the approach to pickleball and paddle, platform tennis, are very similar in terms of be patient, don't force it, be patient, wait for your opportunity, keep the ball in play, make them hit one more. The times that I've played padel, and I haven't played it a huge amount, it's a different approach. You can't just keep the ball in play because the court is too big. It's much more of an attacking game. You have to be much more aggressive, which I like as well. So that's somewhat of a long-winded way of saying I'm glad I'm in racket sports, because I love them all.
You love them all. That's great. I do too. I mean, I love tennis the most. I'll answer that.
Sure.
Without a doubt. But I also play beach tennis. I don't know if you have that in North Carolina, but we have that here in Florida, and that's really fun too. So if you ever get the chance.
What tennis?
Beach tennis.
What did you say? Oh, beach tennis. I have never played it, but I would love to try it sometime.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I had to stop because it's a lot of overhead motion and my shoulder couldn't take it anymore. I have a bad shoulder. So it's like, I'm going to stay with, tennis is the most overhead I can handle. And with the heavy paddle going above your shoulder, it's a high net. That the net is like, I think 5'7". So
I didn't realize it was that. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
well, I'm the same way. I could show you the MRI on my shoulder and it's not pretty. The viewers would turn off immediately, like, go, ooh, that's ugly. Basically, all the tendons are destroyed in my shoulder. So at some point, I'm going to need a shoulder replacement surgery. The third doctor that I saw said, Tim, I wouldn't operate on it. He said, just go for as long as you can and then get it replaced, because I don't know if I can fix this. Thankfully, knock, knock, my shoulder has been okay. I mean, it's never going to be back to where it was, but it's serviceable. And I don't have much pain at all. So I'm thankful for every day that I can be out there.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was a little spoiler. I started reading your book when you agreed to do the podcast. I was like, I got to get his book. But I only started it a couple of days ago. But you do mention the shoulder issue. So right. You never got the surgery then, huh?
No, and I won't take much time with that. But my first doctor said, oh, yeah, you got to get surgery. It's going to be 3 hours. It'll be a year recovery. We'll cut in front, and then we'll do arthroscopic in back, and we'll supraspinatus tendon this and subscapularis tendon that. It's like, whoa. And I'll have my assistant call and we'll schedule a surgery. Like that was the only option. Then one of my paddle friends says, no, you got to see this guy. And then this guy says, no, you've got to see Dr. Connor, who's the official doctor of the Carolina Panthers. He former D1 player at Oklahoma State, former Old Providence member. He's the guy you got to see. So I walk in and he says, well, so Tim, you got the MRI up there, and says, this is not good, is it? I go, no, it's not. He says, the question is what to do about it. And again, he said, I'm not all that confident I can fix this. And he said, let me send you to PT. You do some PT and work. And then, that's going to be your new life. You need to do this, which I hope he's not listening. I haven't been as faithful with that as I should. So I've been doing that, and thankfully I had open heart surgery, which put me on the shelf for about 6 months and may have rested my shoulder. So it's like I've
Oh,
had all sorts of excitement. Yes. Yeah.
oh, wow. Yeah, there, I guess that may be a silver lining that you got a little rest on your shoulder.
And not that I would recommend for people get an open heart surgery. It'll help your shoulder. No, I would not recommend that. That was not exactly a joyride, but I'm glad I'm on the other side of it. And as I tell people, I said, I'm happy to be upright and above ground right now. So, and happy to be talking to you. So
Yes,
yeah, it's been
yes.
quite a journey the last few years.
Yes, I can tell from, the beginning of the book. What made you decide to write the book though? Because you do mention that you had been thinking about that for some time, and then having to get the surgeries, what kind of pushed you to sit down and write it? But what was it inside you, what was the message you wanted to put out there?
Well, it's a great question. And I'll tell you, writing a book, it has been said that writing a book is like giving birth. It's the closest that a man can get to understanding the process of giving birth, because you've got this long gestation period and then you finally give birth to this baby that you've been with for so long. And it is a journey from going to literally a blank page to a finished work. And it's truly one of my proudest moments of being able to get to the end to actually get this book out. And to answer your question, it started after I left Wilson in March of 2018. And I immediately came up with a question, which was, so now what? So what do I do with my life now? I spent nearly 30 years with Wilson. That chapter has closed. So now what do I do? And this book is that journey of how do we figure out what to do, where to do it, how do we understand our passion and our purpose in life, and then how do we go ahead and activate it? How do we go ahead and fulfill that mission? And so the title of the book, shortly after I had that idea, I was driving around Charlotte and I stopped at a stoplight and I saw a bumper sticker and it said, whatever. And I seem to recall it was a fairly long light. I'm thinking of, so what would cause a person to put whatever on their bumper? And then the more I thought about it and the more I followed this car, they might have thought I was a stalker as I was thinking about this, is that I'm going, so wait a second, this is your one and only life and you're going to put whatever on your bumper sticker? Like whatever, like who cares? I'm going, no, it should be whatever it takes. And then the more I thought about this, the more I thought about the blasé, which is apathy, of so many people just drift through life and go, well, whatever, I'll take this job over here, or I'll do this, or whatever, I'll just go out and get plastered tonight, or whatever it might be, whatever. And then I thought, no, this is our one shot. Life isn't a dress rehearsal. And so it was that journey of what would cause someone to be blasé, and then how do we stay ablaze for the rest of our days? Because it's my belief, because I've experienced it personally, that as we get older, the biggest battle that we've got is the battle against cynicism. And you think about it, as we age, we have more and more cuts, dings, scrapes, backstabs, of like, well, I had this job and it didn't turn out. I was in this relationship and I got cheated on, or whatever it might be. And the bitterness can build in, and go, how do we guard against that so that we can be ablaze for the rest of our days? And so that was really the genesis of the book. And then it was really more of a career life transition book. And then I had all these personal problems that happened, family tragedies, friends dying, physical maladies, my mom dying, and all these types of things, and then open heart surgery and all that, where then it became, okay, how do we rise above the inevitable pain and suffering that we experience in life? And so it became a bigger question from there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to unpack in there. So you went through a really rough patch. Was that
Yes.
around the same time that you saw this whatever bumper sticker?
Yeah, well, it was at the beginning of those difficult times.
Yeah.
And then it was almost as if, for those people that read the Bible, the book of Job, where Job's, he loses his family, he loses his health, he loses everything. And it was getting to the point where going, I don't get this. It's you turn around and go, oh my gosh, another death in the family, or another sickness within my family, or, and you really start questioning, why am I here? What's the purpose in all this? I mean, real deep stuff. I know this is a tennis podcast, so we don't necessarily need to go there, but I do challenge everyone, when you're on the court teaching, and you're going, all right, so what's the bigger purpose? Because I truly have a passion, because I know it's true. And this is one of the great things about the coaching profession, is that we have the opportunity as we get on court, as teachers, as coaches, to have not just an effect on their tennis game, but on their life, the way that we treat them, and so often, because of that coach-student relationship, it often becomes deeper than that. When you start a lesson and you say, hey, how you doing? And you could see the look in their eyes of going, something's not right. And oftentimes they'll open up to a coach. And so I am a passionate believer that every interaction that we have with people can be, or at least have the potential of being life-changing in a positive way. And so I really encourage people to look at each interaction, whether it's the checkout worker at the grocery store or whatever, where you go, there's nothing more important than these personal relationships. And unfortunately, because of these devices and all our technology, that a lot of times we're so busy looking down that we don't look around and we don't look up.
And I would say that applies to any job, any career, any life, right? I mean, for us that are teaching tennis is maybe more relevant because we interact with people all day. Every hour of the day, we're surrounded by people, we're talking to people, so we can have a really big impact on a large number of people that we interact with. But I think sometimes going through those really difficult times is what opens up your eyes to, sometimes that's what it takes sometimes, is to go through a really rough situation to kind of see the light. Because otherwise everything's going great, you're hustling, you're grinding, and you don't take the time to stop and really consider those things. It's sad, but it's true, right? I mean,
it's true. Yeah. And Roger Federer popped in my mind again, because one of the questions I asked him in that interview is, I said, not only are you one of the greatest champions in sport, but you're one of the greatest forgetter in sports, where he's been, when he lost the Australian Open to Rafael Nadal, I mean, he cried. And I said, how do you get over that? And I said, these tough losses, how do you overcome that adversity? And he says, you win, you learn from your losses, not from your wins. And so I go back and I meet with my team, and what can I do different? And it's no different in life, is that when things are going well, why change everything, I mean, everything's going great. But when things are going bad, that's when we need to step back and say, all right, what do I need to change? What's the lesson in all of this? And oftentimes we don't try to learn lessons from our successes, but we certainly, whether we want to learn or not, we do from our losses.
Eventually you have to get over your pity party and wrap it up and pick yourself up and figure what you're going to do. But, it's difficult.
It's very difficult. And there is the two in the book right there, is there's an arrow inside the two. And the two really represents the two different directions that we can go when facing that adversity. Is we can either be bitter or we can be better.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And sometimes not only is that a daily decision, It can be an hourly decision depending on what's going on in your life. And it's easy for us to say, well, why me? And I can't believe this happens. And why do I have open heart surgery? I felt great. I was spending 5 hours on court, and now they tell me that I need to have open heart surgery. You got to be kidding me, and be bitter. Or I could look at it and say, this is the best Christmas gift I ever got. Not that I would recommend that you ask for it this Christmas, but I had the opportunity, because I had a bad mitral valve, that they found 85% blockage in the rest of my heart. I was a perfect recipe for just dropping dead on the court.
Oh my God.
I was that guy, but they found it in pre-surgical testing. And I look at that, I say, okay, I could be bitter that I went through that pain and suffering and I was laid up for 6 months and wasn't able to do all, or say, that saved my life. Now I've got another opportunity. And so those are the choices that we make. And it's not always that dramatic, but it can be the choice of the guy cutting you off in traffic and going, all right, I'm going after him, and having him ruin your day, or going, oh, let it go.
Yeah, it really is about how you see it. I would say whenever you change the way you look at things you look at change, right? And I truly believe that, because even say you get fired from a job or you lose your job, like a lot of people lost their job during COVID. At first it sucks. You cry, whatever, you go through your whole process. But later on, eventually you look back and you're like, I am kind of glad that happened, because look where I am, look what I'm doing now. It opened up different opportunities. So it's hard to remember that at the moment when it's happening. But I do believe that when one door closes, another one opens. And it's important to have that perspective. Yeah.
And it's important to realize this is a chapter. The chapter I'm in now feels like a very long chapter. It's time to get to a new chapter. But I know it's still just a chapter. The book is not done yet. And so we all go through periods where you just, I don't get it. I don't get it. How is all this happening? Say, there's some things that we won't get in this life. Yet, we look and say, it's about the next opportunity. I flashed in my mind, I used to coach my son for 7 years in baseball. And one thing that we would talk about all the time is there's only two things you can control: your attitude and your effort. And so you made an error, so you struck out. It's about your next opportunity. And isn't it amazing that too often, too many people don't have the same approach to life? There can be a terrible hurt, a relationship breakup, a business breakup. Someone embezzled something from you, or, you had a business partnership and it went south and he stole everything, or whatever it could be. I mean, there's 1,000 different tragic circumstances that we all know about. And we could have that destroy our life. Or we could say, all right, I'm going to rise up and I'm going to be even better for it. And what can I learn from this? And then move on. I think there's a Chinese proverb that says, get knocked down 8 times, get up 9. And go, yep, that's life.
Another good one that I love to remind myself of is it didn't happen to you, it happened for you.
Absolutely. I love that one as well.
Yeah, because
I do too.
It takes you out of that victim mentality, and it opens up your eye to maybe this is a new opportunity. Something new is coming. So I think it's so important to have that positive attitude in life.
And that's essentially, what I go through in the book, is talk about, and there's templates in there and that of how to find your passion and your purpose, and then how to find the intersection of, so what areas of career and work and life can you activate that on a regular basis? And then what are the 5 steps, which I use, or check it, 6 steps of the acronym of Ablaze, in order to practice those on a daily basis so that we can continue to stay ignited through the rest of our life. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And it's that victim mentality. This is really a work to stand and put a stake in the ground and say, no, we're not going to go through life as victims. One of the great gifts that we have growing up here in the USA or living in the USA and in many other parts of the world where there is true freedom is say, with freedom comes responsibility. And Zig Ziglar, one of the great motivational speakers, used to say, never point a finger at anyone, because when you point a finger at someone, there's three others that are pointing right back at you.
That's a good one.
You know what? That's a good point. Scripture says don't focus on the speck in another person's eye, but look at the log in your own. And it really starts with us.
So you just quote a scripture. So do you consider yourself to be a religious person, or do you meditate, or do you?
Yes. Yeah. Prayer is a big part of my life, and I call myself a Christian, and that has all sorts of connotations for people. And that I think what I like to leave people with is, I think more and more people check out and go, who knows? Of course, with faith, that's why it's faith. It's the hope in the unseen. So what is crossing the line of faith? Well, it's having more certainty that it is than it isn't. But we don't have absolute certainty in this finite life. But what I like to challenge people in the spiritual realm is investigate, ask the questions, think deeply. And a lot of people don't, because of this and so many other things, the corner bar and whatever, we can be distracted in 12,000 ways and more. And we can distract ourselves all of our days and get to the end of our days and look back and go, so that's it? That's it.
Yeah.
And so I put in the book that I've had people say, wow, you had open heart surgery. I mean, and it was a major, a valve repair and a triple bypass, and in the hospital for a week. It was painful on many different levels. And they go, wow, that must have really changed your life. And I thought about that, and I thought, no, it didn't. It didn't change my life, because I have the same philosophy that I had prior to the surgery, but what it did was supercharge my life. It made me even more animated, more motivated, because I know the brevity of life, feeling so close to death, that I have no guarantees for tomorrow. I have no guarantees I'm making it through the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
So the A in Ablaze is appreciation. And that's the foundation to start, is to appreciate what we have despite our momentary struggles. And just to be transparent, I've got some pretty massive ones right now. And you say, okay, but what can I be thankful for? And I have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes. Gratitude is the attitude,
Yes, absolutely.
And also that what you're talking about, that sense of urgency, is, I think, really important too, because so many times we put off doing things that we might dream about, or like you said, we just take on a job and we just do the job because we're getting a paycheck, but we're not really pursuing the things that we like or that we dream about, not even on the side, not even as a side gig, or just getting started. People procrastinate so much to just get started. Even like I did that with
Absolutely.
This podcast, because I've been listening to podcasts for a long time. And
Right.
At one point years ago, maybe like 2 years ago, I thought to myself, I want to start a podcast. This would be really fun. Then I was like, what am I going to talk about? I don't know anybody. Nobody's going to listen to me, blah, 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 blah. And then I started like learning about podcasting. And then it was like, I'll never be ready. Like, you just find so many excuses. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what equipment I need. I had all the whole list until one day, screw it. I'm just going to do it. And I didn't have a logo. I had nothing. I was just like, what the hardest part was actually reaching out to people, because once you reach out to somebody, it's like, oh, it's out there. Now you're committed. Now you have to follow through.
Exactly. You know what? And that is so true. I'm so proud of you, because I've been on the same journey. And people who know me, I tend to be very outspoken. I don't have trouble challenging authority, and, and I speak my mind. And so sometimes I guess I carry an attitude that I don't care what people think. What I learned through this process of being an author, doing the podcast, doing videos, and being very public facing, making social posts and all that, go, you know what? I care about what people think a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
And I go, what if I write a book and nobody buys it? Nobody reads it. But that's not the point. The point is, what did I learn? What did I grow through the processes? I do think we all have a book inside of us, a story that needs to be told. It doesn't necessarily have to be in written form. You're doing it in your podcast. That's the thing that's so fascinating to me, and I'm very much a relational guy, is that there was research done that way back when, there was a study done, I think it was at Harvard, where they did a study between introverts and extroverts, and did research and went back into their histories, and that even the most introverted of us influence, affect, interact with over 10,000 lives through our lifetime, average lifetime. These are the introverts. And it's those personal interactions. And the Ablaze, the acronym, is appreciation, boldness is the B, laughter, A is action, boldness is an attitude, action is an activity, Z is zest, and E is expectation. And what you did by starting the podcast is you had the boldness, you had the action, and you had the expectation that it was going to be what you envisioned it to be. And that takes courage. It really does take courage. One of my favorite sayings is jump and then grow wings. I thought about that. I go, wow, that's the way my podcast was. That's the way the book was. I don't know. Where do I go for artwork? What about author photos? What about the back cover? Should it be hardcover? Should it be ebook, paperback? What about an audiobook? I learned how to do all that. I taught all that myself, and I don't consider myself a techno guy, but I taught myself, and sometimes I beat myself up and I say, I should be so much further ahead now. And then I look back and go, all right, I'm not doing nothing. So, and so I do, I applaud you, because it takes a lot of courage. And so those that are listening to us and those that are watching us, I just say, just do it. The Nike thing, just do it. Go out and do what's on your heart.
Right.
If something's on your heart, and I like Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week talks about asking that question and say, what's the worst thing that could happen if you did that thing and it went south and didn't work? Okay, I wrote a book and no one read it. Nobody died. So what? And I've got a book, and what I learned through the process and the discipline of writing will serve me for the rest of my days.
And no matter what, we're all going to die.
As much as we try to deny that, and believe me, when I was on the table, open heart surgery, I thought about that a lot. I go, who is it now? I hope not. I know, not now. Let me get through this. But it is true. And yet we act as if we're not. I go, well, how insane is that? So that's why we need to make this day work. That's why we need to make this day count. And, so that's my message to the world is to make today matter, because you matter. You matter. And sometimes we go through, given the hardships of life, and going, nobody cares. Oh, they do. Yeah.
And like you said, you matter. So your interests matter. Your passions matter. They should matter to you. If they don't matter to you, they're not going to matter to anybody.
Right. And the role that we can play in people's lives, one thing that just popped into my mind was many years ago, I was flying through Chicago's Midway Airport, Southwest, Kansas City to Chicago and back. And I go up to the counter at Midway, and I go to check a bag. And she goes, hey, yeah, here you go. And it's just like, and I could tell. And she was not in a good way, and frankly, very rude. and threw the bag and back and everything. And I said, ma'am, may I ask a question? She says, what? I said, not a good day today, huh? And she looked at me and she goes, oh, you have no idea. I said, I got a minute. I said, there's nobody behind me. I said, give me an idea. And she poured her heart out to me.
Oh, wow.
And it was just 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes. She was telling me about her day. And then she looked at me and she said, thank you. I feel so much better now. I just had to get that off my chest. And I go, what was the sacrifice I made? What, 5 minutes, maybe? But
yeah,
I bet she had a much better day going forward. And we all have that opportunity, I think. And I know I miss so many of those. And I vowed through this book of going, I'm going to try to miss a lot less of those and activate every opportunity I have.
Yes. And as tennis coaches or paddle coaches, whatever, there's so much low hanging fruit. There are so many opportunities that you have to make an impact in someone's life.
Especially
dealing with kids,
yes,
you can impact their lives every single day. And that's important to remember because it gives your job more purpose, right? That more than just being there to teach technical things. I always say because you can read a book about how to hit a forehand. You can watch a video on YouTube. People take a lesson because they want an experience. They want an interaction. They want the energy. They want your attention. And that's what we're there to do. And there's so many opportunities that we have to make people feel special. That's one of my favorite things about teaching with kids is right. I want to make this kid feel so damn good. Right. They are the best thing in the world.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you don't know what they're going through at home. You hope it's a good, solid home life, but we know there are far too many that aren't. And to have that opportunity, I remember giving a message at the ITA for the, Intercollegiate Tennis Association, and there are a bunch of college coaches there, and they thought it was going to be a message on Wilson product, which I did deliver and say, hey, this is the new product and that type of thing. But then it was just on my heart of just saying, I got a phone call last night that my mom's going to move into the hospital. And it doesn't look good. And I said, I just wanted to share that with you because you as coaches have a unique opportunity, given that you're working on the college level of you could, as they're trying to find their way through the world, you could have an impact that literally lasts the rest of their lives. For decades. What you're doing now could last for decades. And that's true in every lesson you teach, every interaction, and I obviously we've got a theme here of our discussion, but it's just so important. And I think we miss it. We just miss it, which to me is tragic. And I just don't want that to happen.
So if you could go back in time and say hi to 20-year-old Tim, what would you say? Is there anything you would say to him about his career, about his future? Look out for this, watch out for that. Anything, any advice?
It's a great question. And I would tell 20-year-old Tim a lot what I just said over the past hour. Is 20-year-old Tim was wildly clueless. They say that through studies that those that have the longest time horizons are most likely to have success in that they can project and look and delay gratification, that they're most likely to be joyful, happy, successful, fulfilled the longer that your time horizon is, because you're not just trying to have self-gratification at that moment. 20-year-old Tim was concerned with, if I go back in time, probably one thing. Where's the party Friday night? So 20-year-old Tim did not have a very, very long time horizon. And then it was, so what are we doing Saturday night?
Well, he had fun, though.
You know what? No one has ever accused me of, Tim, you don't have enough fun. You need to lighten up a little bit. I go, no, I had no problem with that through high school and college and the years after. And it is so rich irony that through school, I had zero interest in being in the library. I think I had a final exam my freshman year in a science lab, and I had to ask directions to where it was because I never showed up through the whole semester. And now I have a thirst and a passion for knowledge and self-improvement and ways that I can further my personal growth and the personal growth of others. So I love being in the library. I love being in Barnes and Nobles. I love reading books and listening to books and absorbing and saying, all right, so what have I learned and how can I apply it to make not only my life better, but make the lives of the people around me better? And so that would be the message to 20-year-old Tim is go, Tim, listen, I know it's going to be a great party Friday night and have fun. Just think at some point the party's going to be over. All right. And you're going to look, don't waste this time. And I looked at it, I will say that in that time in my life, I did from almost the first day as a freshman, I go, this is going to be over quick. I better make the most of it. But my make the most of it was pretty much partying. And I didn't cheat myself in that department. But what do I have to show? How did I become a better person through the process? That happened as I, grew up in subsequent years and had a family and that type of thing. So, So that's what I would say.
Yeah. All right, Tim, we're in the last couple of questions here. Then I'll let you go. This has been so fun. What has been the Grand Slam moment of your life and the double bagel moment of your life? It can be your tennis life, your career, whatever you want to share. It doesn't have to be personal.
You should always start with the negative. So I'm going to say, and obviously I did not think about this ahead of time. And so the double bagel moment of my life, I would say as I started in radio and television and loved it. I was the on-air guy, so I was a sports anchor and a news anchor and reporter, and I loved play-by-play, so I loved to be behind, in front of the camera, behind the mic, that type of thing. And I took a job in Lexington, Kentucky that was hoping to turn into that, and they really wanted a sales guy, and it was miserable. And I was miserable through that time. And I would say, when I got fired from that job, because I was a Yankee down south trying to sell advertising for a 13th rated AM radio station. And I didn't know anybody in the market. It was truly pit in my stomach. Oh God, I don't want to do this again. I mean, it was absolute dread. And I would say that would be those rough periods of trying to figure out, again, Blasé to Ablaze of how, what's my passion, what's my purpose. And I was truly lost personally and professionally. Yeah. And so that was the double bagel that I would say then, subsequently would turn into, my Grand Slam moment. Two points that I think really captivate my excitement of when you activate your passion. And one that comes to mind is the feeling I had in my dorm room in college when I interviewed, and previous to that, I was asked by TV2 Television, Terre Haute, Indiana, the NBC affiliate, to interview and audition to become a sports anchor for the TV station. My dream, I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. I love sports. And so I went and I auditioned. And so they had me read certain things, and then they say, okay, to wrap up the interview, I want you to ad-lib for 60 seconds. Whatever you want to talk about, just talk, which can be really intimidating, And so I did that. I talked about the start of the baseball season and all that. And I remember looking, and I saw the cameraman look over at the news director and kind of raise his eyebrows and smile. And it was that moment I thought, this could happen. Mm-hmm. And then I got the call, said, Tim, this is Mark Allen, TV2. Just want to offer you the job as weekend sports anchor. You start Saturday. The euphoria that I had at that moment has really been unmatched professionally, of just that excitement of like, oh my gosh, I get to do this. I get to do this. To the point that when they distributed. A lady walked into the newsroom and just said, "Hey, everyone, your checks are in the mail slot." Honest to God, truth. I go, "Oh my gosh, that's right. I paid for this. I totally forgot I get a paycheck for this." The paycheck was about this big, but it was still something. And so that was one of those moments. And the same when Wilson came calling and said, "Tim, you got the job." And so those dreams being fulfilled there, and so many of the things that I've been able to do through this wonderful racket sports profession would be my Grand Slam moment. It needs to be plural because there have been so many Grand Slam moments.
That's fabulous. Tim, how can people find you if they want to reach out to you? I know you have your website, so maybe just tell us your website, maybe the best way to get a hold of you. I don't know if you want to share your email or social media, whatever.
Sure. Yes, you can go to timbuwick.com. That's BUWICK. We put in the W for win. So timbuwick.com. You can find me there. I'm at Tim Buwick on the social channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also go to Amazon and you just type in my name into Amazon. My book and my podcast come up there. So that's another way to find me. And I also have a YouTube video pickleball instructional series. So if you go into YouTube and just type in my name, my teaching videos will come up. One of those videos almost has 250,000 views now, which is incredible. So yeah, it's like, well, maybe I should keep doing this wacky, weird pickleball thing. And just full disclosure about pickleball, I was one of those tennis guys that would make fun of this stupid sport. As a wiffle ball and light little paddles. It's not a serious sport. And then I started to play it. And the aha moment for me is when I started playing it at the higher levels. And I go, it's a lot more sophisticated than I gave it credit for. And it's a lot more athletic than it's giving credit for. So I've got that video series as well. So there's a variety of ways that we can interact. And my email is tim@timbuwick.com.
Perfect. Tim, what a pleasure it's been to host you today. Thank you so much for saying yes to this. We didn't know each other prior to this, so
no,
you have to say yes, but I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I've greatly enjoyed it, and I'm so glad you reached out to me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tim. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to Vida Tennis. Remember to check out Tim's book. It is really great. I will put all the information in the show notes. As always, please feel free to reach out to me via email at vidatennispodcast@gmail.com with any questions or suggestions. Check out other episodes and please share with someone who you think would find it interesting or useful. Thanks for listening, and until next time.